In 1858, an article in the New York Times reported that 8,000 children had been fatally poisoned within a year, all in just one city, New York City. However, the situation was even worse, as these poisonings had been occurring on a significant scale since the early 1800s. It wasn't limited to New York City alone. Many major cities in the North were believed to have lost thousands of children for the same reason. So, who were the killers poisoning the children? Not wolves or anything like that, but rather, I present to you the culprits, unlicensed milk and alcohol producers. Before delving into the topic, a quick reminder, if you enjoy the video, please show your support by clicking the like button on YouTube. Also, subscribing can help us. The story of milk dates back a long way, with evidence suggesting milk consumption as early as 999,000 years ago. The importance of milk wasn't limited to consumption, it played a significant role in the mythology of civilizations like Sumer, Egypt, ancient Greece, and many others. For instance, ancient Greek narratives suggest that the marriage goddess Hera's milk scattered around gave rise to all the stars and galaxies. Although milk was consumed in ancient times, research indicates that people weren't particularly interested in directly consuming animal milk during most periods. This was due to the rapid spoilage of milk due to temperature and, according to estimates, people in ancient times may have wanted to avoid raw milk due to the potential harm caused by it. Therefore, rather than directly consuming raw milk, they gradually turned to the production of products like yogurt, cheese, and butter over time. How did milk become so popular then? There's no definitive answer to this question, but especially before the Industrial Revolution and urbanization, drinking milk was not a common preference in many places around the world, including America. However, speaking specifically about America, with urbanization, there was a gradual change in rural eating habits. This coincided with women starting to work away from home during those times. It's not a significant increase. According to data, in 1840, the percentage of women working away from home in America was still around. However, there wasn't a significant decrease in the ratio of children per mother. As the 19th century began, there were still 67 children per mother in America. The second and main reason for the increase in demand for milk was probably the decrease in milk prices due to the Industrial Revolution. Now, you might ask, what does the Industrial Revolution have to do with milk? And that's a very reasonable question. After all, the main focus of the Industrial Revolution was textiles or production places involving different machines. The Industrial Revolution reduced the prices of certain things, like animal feed, in a general sense, and also facilitated some mechanization in milk production, albeit to a small extent. In essence, the Industrial Revolution was like a different spirit because small businesses in the country were constantly moving towards industrialization or expanding their operations. Therefore, with the significant increase in the production of raw milk and the subsequent price decrease, mothers slowly began to turn to raw milk. Moreover, strangely enough, a belief that milk is extremely beneficial is gradually becoming widespread among people. Americans, in fact, believed that cow's milk could even replace mother's milk. Due to these reasons, some low-income families' female members, under economic and social pressures, had to wean their babies off milk earlier to go to work, while some middle-class women were expected to be ready for constant visits or have others visit them due to social etiquette. In such situations, they couldn't always provide regular breast milk to their babies. However, the real ignorance began in the method of milk production by the killers I'm about to tell you. Because the desire of the Marone and Brooklyn whiskey production facilities to profit from grain residues led them to collaborate with stables. They even set up stables next to their main facilities, starting to produce milk on their own within the cities. The new milk producers were initially quite happy to feed these residues to animals. Firstly, milk coming to the city by wagons from rural areas was always at risk of spoilage. However, milk produced within cities could be delivered directly to the public. Secondly, the liquor factories brought the cost of feed almost free of charge. And didn't the residue they provided increase milk production in cows by up to 25%? As the cows were fed with residues within the city, ulcers formed in their bodies. Some cows even lost their tails, and the original milk of sick cows was a bluish, low-density, dirty, and diseased liquid. In other words, there wasn't anything we could call milk. According to estimates, the reason for the increase in milk production is probably the mixture of diseased liquid with milk during milking. The greed of distilleries kept them going, and they improved the color, consistency, and taste of the bluish milk by adding eggs, flour, water, molasses, and other components obtained from the residues, making it resemble real milk. They marketed it by writing Pure Village Milk on the bottle top, and unfortunately, according to data, this milk was consumed to a large extent in most of the developed northern cities in the United States. Again, unfortunately, because this milk was usually consumed by babies. As a result, as babies consumed this milk, they suffered in pain due to reasons like high fever and uncontrollable diarrhea. However, it is difficult to provide an exact number of people affected by diseased milk, as this problem that began to appear in the first quarter of the 1800s could only be properly noticed in the 1830s. In the 1840s, Jesus, some important doctors, reformists, and journalists finally spoke out about the problem. However, the majority of the public couldn't be convinced because some rich people and distilleries conducted an anti-propaganda campaign. For instance, initially, children were portrayed as dying due to various diseases prevalent at that time, not because of distilleries. Secondly, those who first noticed the cause of these cases were, of course, naturally against distilleries and alcohol. Ultimately, distilleries were already a problem for those people, and they would naturally be the first to notice and announce a new problem arising from there. But as they got involved in the process, sporadically recorded examples suggest that those individuals were accused of being against them, and counter-propaganda was developed, such as, "Look, these people were already against us, now they are throwing accusations at us." Moreover, the concepts of microbes and microorganisms were not yet widespread. Therefore, even convincing the educated class, let alone the ignorant segment of the population, was very difficult. Of course, it is also worth considering the public's love for alcohol. Therefore, in the 1940s, the public and local government couldn't be convinced, and children continued to die. Now, I mentioned earlier that I couldn't say something definitive about the number of those affected and those who died from poisoned milk, but at least we can say this: in the second half of the 1850s, the number of children who died from milk in just 1 year in New York City reached 4 digits, a figure that, as you can understand from the high number, gradually came to light. This incident, which became an activism, was turned into an important newspaper, Frank Leslie's Illustrated Newspaper. The news was strikingly visualized, analyzed within its means, and the results were reported to the public. Likewise, his previous writings in other newspapers, where he disgustingly visualized where distilleries were produced and under what conditions, soon earned the newspapers their bread. Because the public suddenly became angry and started to react. As a result, Jesus. Of course, the local government intervened, but what intervention? They allegedly carried out operations and inspections in the distilleries, but somehow the rich distilleries knew about this in advance, cleaned and organized their facilities, so they continued without any punishment for a while. But our journalist didn't stop there. He himself, by publishing an illustration showing that politicians whitewashed weak cows and put a bag full of money in the pocket of a member of parliament from a liquor manufacturer, redirected the public's anger once again. Of course, during this time, other newspapers were also talking about the incident, and in 1862, despite the very little help from the local government, Liz Lee's ongoing activism led to the New York State Legislature enacting milk regulations. By the way, I forgot to mention, all those cows fed with that ridiculous diet died one by one, just like the children. That's all for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Until we meet again, goodbye.